All right, student, good morning. Today we are going to discuss chapter 10, capital budgeting or project variation. So first, I'd like to address the link between the three chapters. Chapter 8, we discuss bond variation. Chapter 9, share variation. Chapter 10, project variation. All right, I will suggest students you consider the three chapters together and understand the similarity and the differences between them. All right, for me, that's important. This is our first topic. And in the project variation, again, we will use the present value. But for project variation, we use the NPV, net present value. So I will explain what is a net present value, right? For me, it's similar to our present value. Right? However, in chapter 10, for project decision, we not only use present value, we will use other method. All right. So our focus will be other, because I think most of students should be familiar with present value. Okay, should be not a problem. So, but our focus will be other method, and I hope students understand other method have advantage. That means advantage of others will be disadvantage of NPV. Right? For me, that's important. All right. So we will focus on other method and discuss the advantage of other method. All right. So let me follow my slide. Chapter outline. So we have several topics for today's lecture. I hope I can cover the first 4 topics. All right. So the first topic is a comparison, bond, stock, and the project variation. And the next, we will show you the NPV, net present value. For me, net present value should be an easy topic for our student. All right. So I will focus on other method for project. Well, payback, accounting rate of return, then IRR. All right. Our focus will be other method. All right. So let's discuss the first topic, comparison, bond, stock versus project variation. So I use the timeline to show you the differences between them. So you can see the first timeline is for the bond variation. So for bond holder or bond investor, they will receive coupon, a constant coupon every year, and the lump sum payment on the maturity date. And we can use this information to decide the bond price or bond value today. I use a P0, all right? Common stock, dividend, right, forever, because the stock, a common stock has no maturity date. So we have dividends forever. And the D1, D2, D3, that means they are unequal, right? Unequal dividends forever, right? Then we can use a DGM model to decide the stock price or share price today before stock, common stock. Project. So this is a timeline for our project. So project will bring us cash flow. And you can see project as a maturity date. Right. In this example, we assume maturity date of the project, 3 years. All right. So we have cash flow 1, 2, 3, unequal cash flow. In the project, we have an initial cost. All right. And we can bring all the future cash flow to today. Then we have NPV. NPV is the present value of future cash flow minus cost. All right, this is the NPV. All right, so I hope students you have the timeline in your mind. Now we are going to show you the detail about the similarity and the differences between them. So you can see the similarity. All three have identified future dollar, and I know all three will need the timeline, right? And all three involve bring future dollar into present value term, right? All three involve accept or reject decision in the form of purchasing or not purchasing the entity, all right? So this is similarity. Now we are going to address the differences between them. The first difference is lump sum and maturity. A bond has coupon payment and a lump sum payment. Stock has dividend payment forever, but no maturity date. Project have cash flow at the end. Project has a maturity. Fixed payment or fixed cash flow or non-fixed. Coupon payment are fixed. Stock dividend change or grow over time. Project cash flow are typically different each year. Finally, present value versus net present value or NPV. With bond in the stock, our goal is to determine the value today. So bond price or share price P0 is equal to present value. The goal with project is to determine if we exceed our costs with the cash flow identified. In particular, net present value, NPV, is the present value of future cash flow minus initial costs. All right, this is NPV. So why we use the net? Because we have this term, minus initial cost, right? NPV. Okay, so I hope student now you have a basic idea about the comparison, right? Bond versus stock and the project. So again, let me address the key concept for you. So similarity. All three have identified future dollar. All three need to bring future dollar into present value term. All three involve an accept or reject decision. All right. So for bond and the share, we need to decide buy the bond or buy the share or not. Right. For project, we need to decide accept or reject the project. Differences: cash flow, fixed versus non-fixed, a lump sum payment or not. All right. Next, required return. When we do the present value, we need a required return for the discount rate. And the required return depends on the risk. All right, the risk. For stock, the risk of stock, we can use a beta to measure the risk of the stock. And we use a CAPM model to determine the required return for stock. For bond risk, we can use a bond rating. If you remember the AAA or BBB, right, the bond rating to decide the bond risk. For a project, we will use the Chapter 11 WACC, weighted average cost of capital. So we will discuss the required return for project in Chapter 11. In Chapter 10, I will give you the required return directly. But you know, in practice, you have to estimate the required return. We have more discussion in Chapter 11. All right. Okay, so required return. Next, another difference is about time to maturity, right? Where the bond has a time to maturity. Project has a time to maturity. Stock has no maturity date, right? Okay, so this first topic, I hope student now you have the basic concept, the basic understanding about bond, stock, project variation. next we are going to discuss the detail. The second topic is the basic of capital budgeting. So we are going to discuss what is a capital budgeting and why capital budgeting is important for the business. All right. So on this slide, we address the capital budgeting process. So division manager convert the company's strategic objective into business plan. And behind each division business plan, there is a capital budget that detail the resources that the management believe it need to get the job done. So the company faces broader strategic decisions, such as whether to launch a new product, build a new plan, enter a new market, or buy a business. Right? Not only business, individual also need to do the capital budgeting decision, all right, or project variation decision. Right? So for me, it's not difficult to understand, right? So business, they need to do a lot of strategic decision. Here, I give you example, like our new medical school, right? Our unit like to have a new medical school in 2028. For me, this is about capital budgeting or project, right, variation, right? So you can see it's very important for a business. For individual, we have many capital budgeting decisions, like to buy a car or to buy a house. Even education is a project decision, right? So next, you can see the sources of information. To do the capital budget decision, company need to collect the information, right? So you can see here we give you the detail. So if the product idea looks promising, the marketing research group will estimate the size of the market and a market price. If the product requires new technology, the company research and development group must decide whether to develop the technology or to buy it. Then the project is available candidate for the capital budget if the present value of the cash benefit exceeds the project cost, right? So finance team will do the present value. So the benefit exceed or minus the project cost, right? So you can see we need to, so the business, they need to do a lot of work, collect the information and analyze. So let's think about our new medical school. You can see the budgeting, capital budgeting process, right? They need to do the marketing, to do the research in the market. So whether our new medical school has a market, right? And the R&D group, they need to decide. R&D group will involve, right? Finally, we do the present value. Okay. Okay, next slide, we show you the capital budgeting terms. So basic capital budgeting terms. So to do the capital budgeting, we need the information. So here we show you the detail about the information we need. The first information is cost of capital. All right. So we need to use the cost of capital to do the project variation. Cost of capital is the rate of return that a capital project must earn in order to accept it by management, right? So cost of capital is rate of return. And return earned on the asset depends on the risk of the asset. And I know high risk, high return, low risk, low return. And return to an investor is the same as the cost to the company. So cost to the company is a return to investor. And return to investor depends on the risk they are facing. All right. Finally, cost of capital can be sold as an opportunity cost. All right. So in finance, we consider opportunity cost. All right. So about this term, cost of capital, let me use my handwritten note to to show you my understanding about cost of capital. All right. So when we do the present value, we need a future cash flow. Another variable we need is the discount rate. Right. The discount rate is the cost of capital. In the following discussion, we use a K in our discussion, cost of capital. Right. So to finance our project, the asset of the project, we can use either debt, that is bond, or equity. Right. And for debt, we have cost of debt. Cost of debt is a return to debt investor. Cost of equity is a return to equity investor, right? So to finance our project, we have debt, we have equity, we have the cost of debt, cost of equity. Finally, we need to add it up. We use the weighted average, right? So in chapter 11, we are going to discuss the weighted average cost of capital in more detail, or WACC. Right. But in chapter 10, I give you the number directly, right? But you know, in practice, you have to estimate, all right? So this first variable we need to use is a cost of capital. The second variable we need to have is a future cash flow, right? This is another problem, right? Estimation of future cash flow is another big problem, all right? But in FINAN101, we might just give you the cash flow directly, all right? But you know, estimation of cash flow is not easy. For example, think about our new medical school, right? This project will bring the unit cash flow in the future, right? But how to estimate the cash flow, right? First, I will think about is the tuition fee, right? However, in addition to tuition fee, we need to consider the side effect. Side effect could be beneficial to the unit. For example, the medical school can increase the reputation of our unit. I come from Taiwan. My university in Taiwan, we have medical school. I know medical school is very important for the reputation of the unit. All right, I think it's why our unit, want to do this project. Although this project is very challenging, however, estimation of the cash flow is a big issue, right? So you can see the next slide. The second, when we do the capital budgeting, the investment decision have opportunity cost. When we do the project variation, we need to consider opportunity cost. That means when any investment is made, the opportunity to earn a return from alternative investment is lost. All right. The opportunity cost of capital is a return an investor give up when their money is invested in one asset rather than the best alternative asset. Right. So here I like to highlight the cost of using the resources you already own. So for accounting people, they were thinking this way. We are using the resources we already own, so the cost is zero. Right? But for finance people, it's not. Like we consider opportunity cost, right? So the cost, when you use your own money, it doesn't mean the cost is zero, because when you use the money in one project, you lose the opportunity of other project, right? For me, I always think about the cost of marriage, right? So I can see the opportunity cost, right? So here I like to address again the difference between accounting and the finance. So accounting is deal with the money in the past. So in finance, we deal with the money in the future. Accounting, their cost doesn't include opportunity cost, right? Finance, we consider opportunity cost. Okay, so we finished the topic, the capital budgeting basic. So again, let me show you my handwritten the review notes. So the key concept. So capital budgeting, we have many examples of capital budgeting for the business. For example, launch a new product, build a new plant, enter a new market, or buy a business. And not only business, individual have the capital budgeting decision. And we have basic capital budgeting term. The first term is cost of capital. Right? Cost of capital. We use the cost of capital as a discount rate in our present value calculation. And cost of capital, we have cost of debt, cost of equity. And the cost to the company is a return to investor. Right? So we have cost of debt is a return to debt investor. That is bond yield, bonds YTN. Please refer to our chapter 9. All right, chapter 8, bond variation chapter. Cost of equity is a return to equity investor. Right? We can use a capital model to calculate the return to equity investor. After we have cost of debt, cost of equity, we can decide the weighted average cost of capital. Discussion in chapter 11. And when we consider cost, we also include opportunity cost. It's important cost in finance. Another term is future cash flow. Right? We also need to do estimation of future cash flow. Right? But this is 101. We don't have more discussion on this topic. Right? We give you the cash flow directly. All right. So we are going to discuss the next topic, NPV, net present value. Net present value. So on this slide, we show you the formulas of the NPV. So let's discuss the detail. So NPV method tells us the amount by which the benefit from the capital expenditure exceeds its cost. So NPV of a project is the difference between the present value of the project's future cash flow and the present value of its cost. So the NPV is as follows. Right? So NPV is a PV of project future cash flow minus PV of the cost of the project. Right? Here is a detail. Right? So you can see we use the N net cash flow. Net, that means we might have cash inflow and outflow. We add it up. We have a net cash flow. All right. NCF1, NCF2, NCF N year. Right. K is our cost of capital. We use the cost of capital as a discount rate, right, to do the variation. So we bring all the future cash flow to today. We have a PV, present value of future cash flow, then minus initial cost. So NCF0 is the initial cost. Normally, this term is negative. Right, it's our NPV, right? So you can see why we use the net present value, because we use the PV of future cash flow minus initial cost. All right. I think this should be not a problem. All right. Next slide, we show you the step in the project's cash flow and determine its NPV. So we have several steps. Step 1, determine the initial cost of the project. Step 2, estimate the project's future cash flow over its expected life. 3, determine the risk of the project and the opportunity cost of capital. Then we can determine the required rate of return. 4, calculate the project NPV. 5, make the decision. All right. So this is the step we do the project variation. So I like to highlight the 2 key steps. The first key step is estimation of the future cash flow. This is a big challenge. Right? It's very difficult. But in 101, we give you the data directly. If you want to understand more, you can refer to our 200 level and the 300 level finance paper, like our new medical school, right? How to estimate the future cash flow of the new project, right? It's not easy because we not only consider for example, our new medical school, we not only consider the tuition fee, you need to consider the side effect, right? Second, estimation of the required return, right? This is another key variable. We will have more detailed discussion in chapter 11. After we have cash flow, future cash flow, and the required return, then we do the NPV. So for me, it's not difficult, right? This is what we are going to discuss in this chapter, chapter 10. Right? So here, I give you example, our new medical school, right? We need to estimate the initial cost, right? It's huge. Unfortunately, government can help, right? Next, this is a big challenge. We need to estimate the future cash flow, like a tuition fee, right? But side effect is important. Right? Okay, so if you know the step to do the NPV, now we like to give you an example, right? So you can see calculation should not be a problem, right? So we give you the example, three-year project, right? We have CF1, CF2, CF3, and equal cash flow, right? Of course, you need to do the estimation, but here we give you cash flow directly, right? K cost of capital is 12%. Initial cost is here, right? So how to do the NPV? So after we have the timeline, the concept is easy. We bring all the future cash flow to today using 12% as the discount rate, right? I hope students you know how to do that, right? Then adding up, this is the present value of all future cash flow, right? This is our PV, right? For project, we do the NPV, net present value. So net present value is the present value of inflow minus present value of outflow. That is our initial cost, right? This is our net present value. If the net present value is positive, we should accept the project, right? Because the NPV is positive, right? So on the other hand, if NPV is negative, we reject the project, right? So this is a concept of timeline. I hope students should be okay with that. We can use the NPV formula in Excel to help with calculation, right? So I just give you the example. Please note this example is available on our Moodle, right? You can use the NPV formula for other example, all right? So this is our example, 3-year project, cash flow 1, 2, 3. Initial cost is here. Required return or cost of capital is 12%, right? Then we have the NPV result. I show you two results, NPV wrong, NPV right. So I have a note here. When you use NPV, so you can see the NPV, the first variable is our required return, B4, right? Next, we enter the cash flow. This wrong answer, B2 to E2. Please note, we don't put B2 or the cash flow at year 0 in the NPV formula. We need to put B2 here. Right? The reason why? The reason is easy to understand. So let me show you my handwritten note here. So when you use the NPV formula in the Excel, you don't put the CF0 in the NPV formula in the Excel because CF0 is cash flow today. It doesn't need discount, all right? It's the present value already. So don't put the B2 in your NPV formula. All right, this is the key. All right, so you put a B2 is negative cash flow outflow. Right, so you put the B2 outside the NPV formula. All right, so this is the key. Don't forget. All right, so this is a correct answer. NPV is a present value of the future cash flow. Then B2 is a cash outflow initial cost. All right. Okay, I hope students you are okay with that. Now let's review the NPV measure. For me, it's not should be not difficult to understand. So net present value is the difference between market value of an investment and its cost. In particular, NPV is the present value of future cash flow minus initial cost. To do the NPV, I know I need to draw the timeline first. Then I can use the NPV formula in Excel for the calculation. All right. Okay, so NPV, we finished the discussion. Now go to our focus, other method. Like I say, our focus will be other method. All right. So our first alternative method is payback period. All right. So let's follow my slide. So payback period. So payback period is one of the most widely used tool for evaluating capital project. The payback period is defined as the number of years it takes for the cash flow from the project to recover the project initial investment. So what's the payback? Payback is the number of years, or how many years the company will need to recover the project's initial investment. All right. So when the payback method for evaluating the project, a project is accepted if the payback is below some specified threshold. All right. For example, your threshold year could be 3 years, right? If your payback is lower than 3 years, then accept the project. Otherwise, reject the project. So again, we use the example to show you how to do the payback. All right. So this is our example, the timeline again. All right. This is our project, 3-year project. Initial cost negative here, and the future cash flow. Now we like to know the payback of the project. That means how many years to recover the initial cost. So you can see how we do that. Year 1, we do this. So initial cost minus our CF1. So this is our initial cost, 165,000. CF1 is here. So initial cost minus CF1. This number is positive. That means we have not recovered the initial cost yet. So we need to go further. All right. So we keep going. We have not get to 0 yet. Right. So keep going. Then this number minus CF2. And you can see this number is still positive. Right. So we need to keep going. Right. Then the number minus CF3. And you can see we pass 0. That means we reach the payback. All right. So this project, the payback is year 3. Right. Okay. So I think it should be not a problem for student, but we like to discuss the advantage of payback. So next slide, we like to discuss the payback advantage. Right. And I hope you understand payback's advantage will be disadvantage of NPV, right? So first, the advantage, easy to calculate and easy to understand, right? For finance people, NPV is okay, but for average people, they might, have a difficulty, right? Or they might be difficult. It's difficult for them to understand what's the NPV. But payback is very easy. All right. So easy is good, right? Being easy is good. Easy is powerful, right? So this is the first advantage, easy. Second, adjust for uncertainty of the later cash flow. So I like to address this issue, uncertainty. So let me show you my handwritten note here. So when we do the payback, so you can see we consider cash flow at year 1 first, CF1 first, then CF2, and then CF3. And you know, estimation of cash flow is challenging, and it's easier to estimate cash flow in near term than long term. All right. So this is the benefit of the payback, because when we do the payback calculation, we consider CF1 first, then CF2, then CF3. But in NPV, we don't consider the order, right? We consider all the cash flow together. Right? However, uncertainty of the later cash flow is an issue, right? Because uncertainty will increase with time, right? Longer time, higher uncertainty. All right. Next, bias toward liquidity. So bias. So here, bias is not a bad word. Bias here is good, right? Bias toward liquidity. When I see the liquidity, I'm thinking receive the money early, right? So payback will prefer liquidity. So let me show you the next slide. Show you my handwritten note. You can understand why the liquidity is important. So this is my example. So consider we have two projects and we have our cash flow. Initial cost, $100, right? A project, CF1, 150, CF2, 0. B project, CF1, 0, CF2, 200. Our cost of capital is 0.1. All right. Then we can do NPV. NPV, I do the calculation for you, right? This is the number. Right? If you use the NPV, you will see B project has a higher NPV. So NPV will suggest you take project B. But if you use a payback, you can see A project has a CF1, the cash flow at year 1. So payback of A project is year 1. Right? B project, you can see CF1 is 0, CF2 200. So payback of year 2 is 2 years or year 2. So if you use a payback will suggest you take project A. All right. So you can see the payback will prefer the project with liquidity. All right. That means receiving the money early. And this is good, right? Liquidity is important. So when we make a decision, we not only focus on value, we also will favor liquidity. All right. Again, I like to have a joke here that you understand why liquidity is important, you know. So 20 years ago, I have a project, you know, project marriage. I have 2 girls for my marriage consideration, the 2 projects. So first girl, she's very beautiful, high value, but payback is long. I need to use several years to recover my cost, right? I think the payback should be 5 years. The second girl, she's not very beautiful, but she's okay. By the way, she's my wife, right? She's okay, but her payback is short, right? Maybe shorter than 1 year. I just need a few months to recover my costs. So you can see my decision. I will prefer liquidity because liquidity is important. All right. So I hope you understand the liquidity issue and why payback has this advantage. All right. Don't tell my wife. You know, she's good for me. But anyway, anyway, I hope you understand the liquidity issue. So now we'd like to address the disadvantage of payback. So disadvantage of payback. First, ignore the time value of money. Right? We do not consider time value of money in our payback. And the payback require an arbitrary cut-off year or cut-off point. And payback will ignore cash flow beyond the cut-off date. Right? And the payback will bias against long-term projects such as R&D and the new project. Right? So yes. Sorry? The second point, require a arbitrary cut-off year. For example, you need to set up a cut-off year, for example, 3 years, right? So if your payback is under the cut-off year, then you accept. But how we decide the cut-off year, right? So this is a problem. We don't have the data to serve. Sometimes the cut-off year it depends on our subjective decision, right? So this is a problem. All right. So you can see payback has several disadvantages. However, like I say, disadvantage of payback will be advantage of NPV. Right. Okay, so we finished the payback. So we have the payback method, other method. So again, we need to know, I would want to address the advantage of other method. And advantage of other will be disadvantage of NPV. So let's review the key concept of payback for you. So payback is about length of time until the accumulated cash flow equal or exceed the original investment. Right? It's about the time, how many years, right? And the payback period rule, investment is acceptable, is calculated payback is less than some specified number of years. So thank you for the question from our students. So you can see we need a pre-specified number of years. But the decision, how we determine the number of years, right? We don't have data. So manager need to use a arbitrary, they need to decide a couple of years. Right? So this is the problem. Next, advantage of payback. So we like to focus on advantage of payback. Easy to understand and then calculate, right? Adjust for uncertainty of later cash flow because it's easier to estimate the cash flow in the near term than long term. And the bias toward liquidity. So payback will prefer a prefer a short-term project. And short-term project is good because we prefer receiving money early, right? Okay, so this for today's lecture. One more thing before we go, let me show you the QR code. All right, student, the QR code is ready for you. Thank you for attending today's lecture. I will see you on Friday.